me to interfere, but I did say that I believe the six-party talks would be aided by starting to give consideration to a nuclear weapons-free zone in Northeast Asia. There are nuclear weapons-free zones in Africa, in parts of Asia, in Latin America, in Central Europe. Why should there not be a nuclear weapons-free zone in this part of the world? And for North Korea to participate in such an establishment of a nuclear weapons-free zone would require, first of all, them to feel secure. And so the threats that have been made against the DPRK have to be removed. And then the question of economic relationships enhanced. I believe that participating in a diplomatic process in which all parties are treated with respect offers a better future than approaching these questions with rigidity. I believe that it will be difficult, but not impossible. And at the heart of all the regional problems, whether North Korea, Iran, the Middle East, they all have core problems in there. At the heart of them all, in respect of nuclear weapons, is the situation in which the 5 permanent members of the Security Council are the possessors of all the nuclear weapons, most of them, plus India, Pakistan, and Israel. So they're the possessors. They have to rethink their position, because as the 21st century continues, it is not viable for one set of countries to maintain their nuclear weapons while all other countries don't acquire them. That's not going to be sustainable, because nuclear weapons are instruments of power. And whether they like it or not, the nuclear weapon states are going to have to recognize their responsibility to set global norms to which we then expect North Korea, Iran, everybody else to comply. I take some hope in the fact that China adopts progressive views on this subject. I said in my lecture, China has voted for a nuclear weapons convention. China, the leader of China, has spoken at the summit in favor of work starting now. China employs a no first use policy, which the others do not. So perhaps, as I said a few moments ago, approaching this problem with feelings of respect for one another's views is at least a way to have a progressive dialogue. And I hear China speaking respectfully in this matter. I see how serious they will be. But in respect of Obama, if you adhere the Republic of Korea, you attach great importance to the United States. So, the President of the United States wants to move forward. China wants to move forward. India wants to move forward. Why don't we move forward? That's my question. So you see, it's a new moment. And the students everywhere, this classroom everywhere, should be focusing on the world that you are going into. Are you going to allow, as you assume your own positions of authority and stature in our community, it's inevitable. So it's what happens. University students, 20 years, become very important people. Are you going to allow the situation of nuclear disparity threaten the building of the conditions for peace? That will affect you. If this problem is not resolved, that is to say, we just have to go on a little bit here, a little bit there, and still have nuclear weapons, they will one day be used. Of that, there is no doubt. No doubt. And as Ban Ki-moon and also Kofi Annan, his predecessor, have said to us, any use of a nuclear weapon anywhere would have the effect of a total catastrophe. I said to someone the other day, I don't know if you're following here in South Korea, the Haiti earthquake. The people who were in Haiti. Now the people of Chile earthquake. A lot of suffering. Terrible suffering from earthquake. Well, we're very sorry for the people of Haiti and Chile, the earthquake. But we learned something from it because at least they had infrastructure. There were roads, there were ambulances, hospitals. People could do something to help people who were suffering. In nuclear war, there's nothing left. The infrastructure is gone. There are no beds, there are no hospitals. The only lucky people will be those who die immediately. Because all those survivors would have terrible time. And a lot of people don't want to think about this. We are in what is called psychic numbing. Psychic numbing. Denial. It's a strange process that human beings go through. I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so I do not give you a lecture on psychiatry here today. I only talk about what we have before us, which I used in the beginning of the lecture. The quotation from the Australia-Japanese Commission. See, there's 22,000 nuclear weapons in existence. Why? So you see, when we address the questions, specific questions of North Korea and Iran and other places, we want to, of course, solve those problems to stop further spread of nuclear weapons. But it cannot be stopped without
if I suggest that we drop that word nuclear in your title?
Drop the word
Nuclear.
nuclear. Aha. The why disarmament is occurred. Aha. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In the 1960s, let's just say 40, more than 40 years ago, there was a movement on to that was called general and complete disarmament. There'll always be revolvers for the police, small arms. Not talking about that. We're talking about weapons of war. There was a movement. And do you know what happened to the movement to have general and complete disarmament in the world? It became a United Nations document. The states adopted what was called the McCloy-Zorin principles. These were a set of principles that President Kennedy of the United States and President Khrushchev of the Soviet Union of the day commissioned their negotiators to draw up what it would look like, what a treaty would look like for general and complete disarmament. They did so. You can go into Google and search it. McCloy-Zorin principles. Became a United Nations document and it passed. And people then said, well, maybe we're going to have a different kind of world. And then all of a sudden, there was more expansion in the Cold War. The Soviets invaded Afghanistan coming up later. And one thing after another happened and then it went down. And people stopped thinking of general and complete disarmament. The phrase appeared again in Article 6 of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which says states are required to negotiate the elimination of nuclear weapons, comma, and then to proceed to general and complete disarmament. And for a long time, many states argued that we can't do nuclear disarmament separately. It has to be within the context of general and complete. And that very question was taken up by the International Court of Justice in 1996. And the International Court of Justice ruled that these are two separate issues. That is to say, nuclear disarmament is not dependent on general and complete disarmament. It is separate. And pragmatically, it has to go first. And cannot be held hostage. It cannot be held hostage to general and complete disarmament. So, the answer to your question, very important, very interesting, important question. Since the 60s, even with the end of the Cold War in 1989, there has been a resurgence of militarism around the world. And people today are not optimistic. Sure, you have Costa Rica, which has no army, and Panama, and maybe two or three other states somewhere. But most of the world is heavily armed. In fact, if you could find is spending enormous amounts of money today on arms. This on peace. The disparity, the distortion is enormous. So now I come back to the question, would I be in favor of dropping the word nuclear from that title? In a deep philosophical sense, I would say yes. But in the sense in which I have come here, or the sense of my life's work, in recognizing the urgency of nuclear weapons and the dangers, for the reasons that I have said, that we must give a priority to getting nuclear weapons out of the picture, to give every other aspect a chance to go forward on the economic agenda, the environment agenda, human rights agenda, and even then on the arms agenda. So from that pragmatic sense, I would say no. That I have to keep the focus on that which is so dangerous to the world. As I said, 22,000 on alert. And as they say in the Commission, with more nuclear armed states now and more system vulnerabilities, the near miracle of no nuclear exchange cannot continue in perpetuity. So, for me, I must stay focused on nuclear at this time in our history. Somebody else like to?
Thank you very much for
Sorry?
Thank you very much for your beautiful lecture about modern nuclear disarmament, not disarmament. Now it's great. I want to thank my question about the relation between politic idea and the military idea of a weapon. Nuclear, national, international, so and forth. In accordance to the Western tactical political idea about weapon, all weapon, all weapons must be under the politic idea. I think there is a very important how much, how many. And now today there are modern nuclear military weapons. But the more, and the more very important, so important, or a function, political idea between how must man control these nuclear objects, nuclear weapons. How do you think about political idea, the relation of political idea and the idea that control this modern weapon, nuclear?
I find your question takes us into right as human beings to employ such massive destruction. It's a phenomenon that we have identified in the 21st century when we have human rights being developed. Universal Declaration of Human Rights 65 years ago, 60 years ago, and the covenants, economic and social, political rights, and we see those rights spreading now. Rights of women, the rights of children, the rights of the disabled.
Especially American scientists.
But not,
Do you know
but not,
Thomas Kuhn? Do you know Thomas Kuhn?
yeah.
That mentioned, he talked about
It's not just American. There is a universal recognition of human rights.
You go on,
moving
yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
The governments have to be responsible.
Yeah.
And so as we have human rights developing, we've also perfected weapons of mass destruction to destroy people's rights, to destroy people and their rights. It is incompatible for us to go forward as an intelligent species with two diametrically opposed elements dominating our life. Human rights to advance people, weapons of mass destruction, nuclear, to kill everyone. Intellectually, we cannot accept this. And so science has gone faster in the development of the scientific expertise to make this possible. They have gone faster than we have in philosophy and in life and the basis of human rights to enforce the applicability. Because if we then consider the natural evolution of rights, we come to a definition of the human right to peace. And that too, as I said a moment ago, that too has been a United Nations document, overtaken, particularly in this case, overtaken by the wars that developed after 9/11, the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. We have been interrupted by the terrorism and the fallout of the decade we've just come through. We were interrupted on our development of a culture of peace, which the United Nations has been working on, to overcome the continuity that we have always had of the culture of war. So we have, at this very moment in our life, the ideas of the culture of peace being developed, and the culture of war still with us. Which will prevail as the 21st century proceeds? And my dear friends, look not to me for the answer of which will prevail, the culture of peace or the culture of war. Look to yourselves. I thank you very much for the opportunity